Today's story is so tense it will leave you holding your breath. Set against the burning silence of the Old West. A frontier town where the sun bakes the streets. Revolvers rest just inches from quick tempers, and violence always feels one step away. This is where destiny collides, between men who hunt power and those who quietly guard peace. It started with a single knock on a shop door. A harmless moment that would soon decide who walks away and who never does. Before we kick off this adventure, don't forget to hit like on the video and let us know in the comments where you're watching from. Dust rolls lazily across the empty main street of Dry Hollow, a frontier town where optimism dries up fast and broken dreams sink into iron-stained soil. The afternoon sun presses down without mercy, warping the outlines of weather-beaten buildings through waves of heat. A hand-painted wooden sign groans in the hot wind. Ash Ridley, cobbler and leatherwork. The modest shop sits wedged between a rowdy saloon and the town undertaker, an appropriate place in a town where men often stagger from one door straight into the other. Inside the shop, Ash Ridley bends over his workbench, scarred hands moving with calm precision as he repairs a rancher's worn boot. The walls are lined with the tools of his trade: hammers, awls, leather scraps, coils of thread. Sunlight filters through a dusty window, catching motes of dust that drift like faint sparks in the air. Every tool hangs exactly where it belongs, arranged with almost obsessive order. The place smells of leather oil, polish, and decades of honest labor. To any casual eye, Ash looks exactly like what he claims to be: a man in his early 60s who has spent his life fixing other people's shoes. His silver hair is neatly trimmed, his clothes plain but clean, reading glasses balanced low on his nose. His movements are slow, measured, never wasted. Only the faint outline beneath his leather apron, where a small derringer rests in a custom holster, hints that there might be more beneath the surface. The quiet rhythm of his work is broken by the sound of horses outside. Too many horses for an ordinary afternoon in Dry Hollow. Ash's hands pause for half a second, but he doesn't look up. Long experience has taught him the value of seeming unaware. In the reflection of the window, he counts 6 riders dismounting. Spurs jingle with the careless confidence of men who expect trouble to move aside for them. The Iron Wash outfit has arrived at last. For weeks, rumors have trailed them. 3 banks hit in 3 towns, lawmen left dead, communities shaken. Now they've chosen Dry Hollow, drawn by the mining payroll scheduled to arrive tomorrow. Young, ruthless, certain they can't be stopped. The deadliest mix the West has ever known. Their leader, Rook Vance, pushes through Ash's door first. The bell above it rings softly, almost politely. An odd sound for a man like him. Vance stands tall, dressed in expensive clothes that look more bought than earned. His gun belt is just as showy, nickel-plated revolvers with pearl grips. Everything about him suggests a man trying to manufacture a legend rather than live up to one. Afternoon, Ash says calmly, never lifting his eyes from his work. His hands keep their steady rhythm. Thread pulled tight, pegs tapped, leather shaped. Vance's boots, too fine for real work, stop inches from the bench. Word is, you're the best cobbler between here and San Francisco, Vance says, his voice carrying that smooth mix of false charm and threat bully's favor. A man ought to be proud of his reputation. I do honest work, Ash replies, still focused on the boot in his hands. Nothing more, nothing less. The rest of the outfit files in, spreading out with practiced ease. Men used to intimidation, all young, mid-20s at most, each wearing matching nickel-plated revolvers. Without appearing to look, Ash notes their positions. 2 near the door, one drifting toward the tool wall, two flanking their leader. Honest work, Vance repeats, stretching the words. Admirable. Boring as hell, but admirable. He picks up a finished boot from the counter, turning it slowly, inspecting it with exaggerated care. Doesn't it get dull? Sitting here day after day, fixing other men's boots while life passes you by? The gang laughs on cue. Ash finally looks up. His blue eyes are sharp behind the lenses. Was there something specific you needed, Mr. Vance? Rook Vance grins, teeth too white, too perfect. What I need is professional advice. He lifts one foot, showing off the polished leather. These boots pinch when I'm in a hurry. Say, leaving a bank real fast. More laughter. Ash sets his work aside carefully, marking his place with instinctive precision. I see. You'd like them adjusted. That's right, old-timer. A man in my line of work needs speed. Vance leans forward, planting both hands on the bench. Though, I guess you wouldn't know much about moving fast these days. Been a long time since you had to run from anything. Ash removes his glasses and folds them neatly. They can be adjusted. 3 days' work, $5. The shop erupts with laughter. 3 days? Vance straightens, shaking his head. No, that won't do. We're on a schedule. Need them by tomorrow morning, early. Quality work takes time, Ash answers evenly. It can't be rushed. One of the gang, a rat-faced kid with a thin mustache, steps closer to the tool wall. Could use some new tools, he mutters, reaching for a finely balanced awl. Don't touch that. Ash's voice doesn't rise, but something in it stops the young man cold. For a brief moment, the air in the shop feels colder despite the heat. Vance's eyes narrow. Something wrong, old man? You seem awful protective of your little tools. Every tool has its purpose, Ash says quietly, his hands resting flat on the bench. Best to respect that. Vance studies him for a long second, then laughs again. But this time, there's an edge to it. You know what I think? Rook Vance says at last. I think you've spent too many years hunched over this bench, old man. Softened your mind. He draws one of his revolvers, not raising it, not aiming, just setting it on the counter between them like a casual thought. A suggestion. Maybe someone needs to show you how things work now. The world's moved on while you've been stitching boots. Ash Ridley looks at the gun, then back at Vance's face. His expression doesn't change, but something deepens in his eyes, like still water revealing hidden depth. The world hasn't changed as much as you think, Mr. Vance, Ash says calmly. Men like you have been riding through places like this since before you were born. Most pass through, some don't. Vance's smile fades. Is that supposed to be a threat? Because I'll tell you this, old man. Crossing the Iron Wash outfit isn't healthy. Just ask the sheriff over in Copper Creek. He pauses, then grins thinly. Oh, wait. You can't. He's dead. Around the shop, the other men shift. Hands drift closer to holsters. The sun has dipped lower now, throwing long shadows across the floor and the front windows. Ash remains seated, relaxed, but his hands are no longer resting on the bench. Not a threat, he says quietly. Just an observation. As I said, every tool has its purpose, even old ones. Vance's face hardens. He straightens, lifting the revolver and pointing it directly at Ash. Last chance. Fix my boots by morning, or I start breaking fingers. Maybe I leave enough of this place standing so you can start over, if you're still breathing. Ash exhales slowly. The sound carries weight, something between surrender and resolve. 3 days, he says. That's my price. His eyes meet Vance's, and for the first time, the gang leader notices something wrong. There's no fear in the old cobbler's gaze, no uncertainty, only calm assessment, the kind that feels familiar and dangerous. You know what? Vance snaps, anger tightening his voice. I don't think Dry Hollow needs a cobbler anymore. Boys, why don't we... The sound of galloping horses cuts him off. Shouts rise from outside. Fire! Fire at the livery stable! Vance's head turns toward the noise, and in that instant, something shifts in Ash Ridley. It's subtle. Just a slight adjustment of balance, a different way of holding himself. As if a heavy coat has finally been shrugged off. You might want to check on your horses, Ash says softly. Left them at the livery, didn't you? Vance snaps his gaze back, suspicion narrowing his eyes. This isn't over, old man. He signals his crew. They move fast, boots pounding across the floor. Vance backs toward the door, gun still trained on Ash. We'll finish this later. I'll be here, Ash replies, already reaching for his glasses and the unfinished boot. As Vance leaves, Ash allows himself a faint smile. He knows exactly how long it will take them to confirm their horses are safe, to realize there was no fire. Just enough time. Slowly, deliberately, Ash rises. He flips the sign on the door to closed. Then he walks to the back of the shop and kneels before a locked trunk that hasn't been opened in 15 years. Inside is another set of tools, not for leather, for other kinds of repairs. It's time to remind the Iron Wash outfit that some legends don't fade. They adapt. They find quieter ways to keep the peace. As the sun sinks over Dry Hollow, Ash Ridley removes his apron. Beneath it, his clothes are plain but functional, worn in ways that favor speed. The derringer in its custom holster is joined by something else. A gun belt, carefully maintained despite years of disuse. The revolvers are simple steel, no ornamentation. Working guns for a working man, just like his tools. Every piece has a purpose. Tomorrow, he'll prove why they once called him Needlehand Ridley. Not for leather and thread, but for how quickly men learned their mistakes. Preparing this story took time and care. If you're enjoying it, make sure you're subscribed. It truly matters. Now, back to the story. The setting sun paints Dry Hollow in amber and shadow as Ash begins his preparations. In the back room, beneath racks of leather and supplies, he lifts a loose floorboard and retrieves a worn leather journal. Its pages hold more than shoe orders. They contain years of quiet observation, patterns of movement, weaknesses, defenses. The true map of the town. Across the street, the saloon erupts with noise. Laughter spills into the evening air as the Iron Wash outfit returns from their pointless ride to the livery stable, congratulating themselves on outsmarting an old cobbler. Glass shatters, a piano stumbles through a frightened tune, and drunken voices rise and fall in careless celebration. Above it all, Ash Ridley climbs the narrow stairs to the living quarters above his shop. The room is bare, almost monk-like, yet everything is placed with deliberate order. A single bed, a washstand, and a wooden chest that hasn't been opened in years. Ash unlocks it with a key hanging from a chain around his neck. Inside, wrapped in waxed cloth, rests the remains of another life. The first thing he lifts out is an old newspaper clipping, its edges yellowed and brittle with age. The headline reads, "Needlehand Ridley brings down the Vasquez brothers." The photograph shows a younger man, with the same sharp eyes, standing over 3 bound outlaws. That was 20 years ago, back when his name alone was enough to turn trouble away before it ever reached town. Next, he removes a marshal's badge. Its silver surface is dulled, worn smooth by time, yet it still carries weight. He had surrendered it officially long ago, but kept it as a reminder of the oath he took. An oath that didn't end simply because he chose a quieter trade. As he checks his revolvers with practiced familiarity, Ash reflects on what 15 years of peace have given Dry Hollow. Once a raw and lawless place, the town had grown steady under his silent watch. Families settled. Businesses took root. People slept easy because they believed this place was safe. The Iron Wash outfit threatens all of that, not just with robbery, but with the message their success would send. That Dry Hollow is easy prey. Ash knows better than most that in the West, reputation is survival. Once a town loses the belief that it can defend itself, the wolves never stop coming. From his window, he watches Rook Vance and his men stagger out of the saloon and into the hotel across the street. Loud, drunk, drowning in whiskey and arrogance. They've already forgotten the cobbler who refused to bow to them. To them, he's just another old man clinging to pride. Tomorrow they'll remember. Tomorrow they'll learn why old-timers still whisper about Needlehand Ridley, the man said to be so fast that death arrived before you noticed he'd moved. The name came not only from speed, but from how many outlaws needed stitches or a coffin after crossing him. For now, Ash returns to his bench. A rancher's boot still waits for repair, and he has never left a job unfinished. His hands move with the same careful precision, whether shaping leather or preparing weapons. Both demand focus. Both punish mistakes. Night settles over Dry Hollow, and by lamplight, Ash continues his work. To anyone passing by, he's only a cobbler staying late. They don't see how his steady motions mirror the cleaning of a firearm, or how each stitch follows patterns learned in blood. Tomorrow, the Iron Wash outfit will learn what old men already know. Some men step away from violence not because they've weakened, but because they've grown wiser. And wisdom, paired with skill that never fades, is far more dangerous than youth. Dawn comes quietly. Ash opens his shop at exactly 7, as he has every morning for 15 years. Early risers arrive with their needs: a cracked heel, a torn strap, worn leather begging for repair. Evelyn Pike from the laundry sets her son's school boots on the counter, the toes rubbed thin from too much running. "I swear, Mr. Ridley," she says with a tired smile, "that boy wears out shoes faster than he grows." Ash examines the boots with professional care, reading glasses balanced low on his nose. "Growing boys are hard on leather," he replies. "No charge. Consider it an investment in Eli Pike's education." "That's too kind," Evelyn protests. But Ash is already working, his hands moving with easy confidence. She leaves a fresh pastry wrapped in brown paper on the counter anyway. The morning unfolds as it always does. Farmers with mud-caked boots, ranch hands with worn stirrup leather, ladies needing delicate repairs to walking shoes. Each receives the same quiet attention. To most, Ash Ridley is simply the town cobbler, respected, reliable, courteous. They see his silver hair, his weathered hands, his gentle manner, and think they understand him. Even his kindness, like fixing Eli's boots for free, fits neatly into that image. Few notice how he positions himself so both door and windows stay within view. Fewer still realize his casual questions about travel and visitors are anything but idle talk. By mid-morning, Clay Harker steps inside, there to collect his repaired gun belt. The leatherwork is flawless, every stitch exact. "Fine work, as always," the sheriff says, running a finger along the reinforced holster. "Just knowing your materials," Ash answers mildly, then adds almost offhand, Seen some new faces around town. Harker stiffens slightly. Young for a sheriff, barely 35, but smart enough to hear a warning. The Iron Wash outfit, he says quietly. Got word yesterday. 3 banks hit already. 4, Ash corrects gently, adjusting his glasses. A word out of Copper Creek is that they robbed the Cattlemen's Trust 2 days back. 8 dead, sheriff included. Clay Harker's hand drifts toward his gun without him realizing it, a reflex born of bad news and worse instincts. That wasn't in the wire, he mutters. People talk while their boots are getting fixed. Ash Ridley replies evenly. You'd be surprised what you hear when you listen. He begins working on another piece of leather, his awl moving with steady precision. Mining payroll's due tomorrow, isn't it? Harker rubs a hand through his hair, suddenly looking younger than his badge suggests. Yeah, I've already sent deputies to escort the wagon. If the Iron Wash outfit is really in town, Ash says without looking up, you'd be wise to post extra watches tonight, especially near the livery. A crew that size will want fresh horses for a fast exit. The sheriff nods slowly, studying the cobbler with a new sense of unease. There's something in Ash's voice, measured, exact, that doesn't fit a simple tradesman. Before he can press the thought, the shop bell rings. Rook Vance strides in, swagger intact, wearing the same boots he demanded be fixed the day before. His eyes flick to the sheriff, narrowing slightly, though his smile never fades. Well now, Vance drawls, if it isn't Dry Hollow's finest lawman. He chuckles. Don't suppose you're here about that little fire scare at the livery yesterday? Caused quite a stir, almost like someone was trying to waste our time. Harker straightens, fingers brushing his holster. No report was filed, but you're welcome to make one. Not necessary, Vance replies smoothly. I'm sure it was all a misunderstanding. His gaze shifts to Ash. Same kind of misunderstanding our friend here seems to have about how fast he can fix my boots. Ash keeps working. As I said yesterday, quality takes time. 3 days for a proper job. And as I said yesterday, Vance snaps, his tone sharpening, that won't work for me. But I've had time to think. He pulls a thick roll of bills from his coat and drops it on the bench. $500? That ought to adjust your schedule. Harker stiffens. Ash calmly sets his tools down. Money doesn't change how leather cures, Mr. Vance, he says, or how much care each stitch needs. Some things can't be rushed. Vance's face darkens. He slaps the cash down harder, scattering scraps across the bench. I've been patient, he growls. More patient than my reputation allows. Now you're making me wonder if you're stupid or looking for trouble. Just honest, Ash replies quietly, gathering the scattered pieces. About my work. Honest? Vance laughs, cold and hollow. Let me be honest then. By this time tomorrow, things in this town are going to change. He leans closer. The question is whether you'll still be here to see it. One last chance, he murmurs. Fix my boots by morning, or what? Clay Harker cuts in, his hand now openly resting on his gun. Vance straightens, smile returning like a mask, snapping back into place. Just a business discussion. Nothing that concerns the law. He tips his hat with mock courtesy. Good day, Sheriff. Mr. Ridley? On his way out, he knocks a pair of finished boots off the counter. They hit the floor hard, nails and leather skittering across the planks. Harker bends to help, but Ash waves him off. Best see to those extra watches, Ash says, especially the livery. The sheriff hesitates. You sure you're all right here? I could post a deputy." "I've managed this long," Ash replies, already restoring order. Each tool returns to its place, every piece sorted. "Though you might want to send a wire to Bram Alder," he adds casually. "Let him know you're aware of the Copper Creek robbery." Harker nods slowly, curiosity burning brighter now. Then he leaves, boots echoing down the boardwalk. To anyone watching through the window, Ash Ridley looks unchanged, just a craftsman lost in his work as the sun climbs higher over Dry Hollow. They don't see how every tool he replaces could serve another purpose. They don't notice the balance of the knife he tests, or how easily the hammer could break more than leather. Most of all, they don't understand that every movement is preparation. Ash has learned that trouble isn't best met head-on, but anticipated. Like leather curing, some things demand patience, precision, and the wisdom to act only when the moment is right. The afternoon heat hangs heavy when a lone rider approaches from the east, dust trailing behind him. Even from a distance, something is wrong. His posture stiff, his seat unsteady. By the time he reaches town, his shirt is dark with blood. He barely stays mounted until the sheriff's office, then collapses forward. "Ford Kellen," he gasps as Harker and his men rush to him. "The Iron Wash outfit. They knew we were coming." Inside his shop, Ash Ridley hears the commotion, and he knows the waiting is over. Ash Ridley sets the boot aside and steps toward the front window, careful to remain out of sight as he studies the scene across the street. The wounded rider is Ford Kellen. Ash recognizes him instantly from his years as a marshal, though the young deputy would never remember the quiet cobbler he once passed without a second glance. Snatches of conversation drift through the open window. Ambush. Mining payroll. All dead. Ford's voice is weak, fraying with every word. "They're coming. Warned them." But they knew. Ash's fingers tighten slightly against the window frame. The escort, sent out that morning by Clay Harker, must have crossed paths with the Iron Wash outfit on the road. Yet something about it feels wrong. The gang couldn't have known about the escort unless... The shop bell rings. I hope I'm not interrupting. The voice belongs to Mercer Slate, owner of the hotel where the Iron Wash outfit is staying. He's dressed in his usual fine clothes, every inch the successful businessman. But today there's a sharpness to him. Predatory, just closing for lunch. Ash replies, turning slowly from the window. He takes in Slate's stance, just inside the doorway, one hand resting casually near his coat pocket. "This won't take long," Slate says, producing a thick envelope. "I found something interesting digging through old newspaper archives. Been doing a little reading about a certain Needlehand Ridley." The name settles heavily between them. Ash shows no reaction. He simply begins wiping down his tools. "Sounds like a dime novel character," he says evenly. "That's what I thought," Slate replies, stepping farther inside and shutting the door behind him. The bell chimes again, soft this time, almost a warning. But the more I read, the more curious it got. Funny thing is, Needlehand Ridley vanished 15 years ago. Plenty of men came west 15 years ago, Ash says mildly. Plenty of cobblers, too. Slate smiles, but it never reaches his eyes. True, but how many of them have gun calluses beneath their work calluses? How many know how to maintain a lawman's holster? How many offer sheriffs carefully timed warnings? He drops the envelope on the bench. Yellowed clippings spill out. Stories of a legendary lawman who could draw and fire faster than any man in the territory. The photographs are old, faded. The resemblance is unmistakable. You did your homework, Ash says calmly. And you didn't touch the clippings. That takes patience. 3 months, Slate answers, all pretense gone. Ever since I started working with the Iron Wash outfit, I needed to be sure Dry Hollow was safe for business. Had to know if there were complications. The final piece slides neatly into place. The hotel's location, Slate's interest in the archives, the gang's knowledge of the payroll escort. You're their inside man, Ash says quietly. Slate's lips curl. Smart as the stories say. He draws a derringer from his coat, a small, easily hidden weapon. Vance doesn't know who you are. None of them do. I could have told him. But I wanted this for myself. Taking down Needlehand Ridley would have bought me a name. Ash doesn't move from the bench. His hands remain steady as he finishes cleaning a blade. That's an ambitious plan, Mr. Slate, he says. But you made 3 mistakes. Slate laughs, confident. Did I? Let's hear them. First, Ash says, setting the knife down. You assumed I was hiding who I am. I wasn't. He reaches for another tool, a heavy cobbler's hammer. I was waiting. Second, you thought a derringer would be enough. Slate's finger tightens. It isn't. And third, Ash says calmly, you close the door. The motion is nearly invisible. The hammer leaves Ash's hand in a spinning blur just as Slate fires. The derringer cracks, but the hammer smashes into Slate's wrist. The gun skitters across the floor. Before he can recover, Ash vaults the bench with shocking speed, covering the distance in 2 strides. Slate reaches for a hidden revolver. He never gets it. The first strike drives the breath from his lungs. The second snaps his head sideways. The third drops him hard to the floor, gasping, helpless. Ash retrieves both weapons, his breathing steady. Now, he says evenly, let's talk about the rest of your plan for the mining payroll. You'll kill me? Slate wheezes. Ash pulls a length of leather cord from the bench. No, he replies. Despite what the papers said, I only killed when there was no other choice. But you're going to tell me everything about Rook Vance's plan, Ash Ridley says quietly. Every detail. He steps closer. Something in his eyes makes Mercer Slate flatten himself against the wall. Because if you don't, Ash continues evenly, I'll start showing you why they really called me Needlehand Ridley. It wasn't only about speed with a gun, he adds. It was about how quickly I could put a man back together after asking the right questions. And I'm very good with a needle. Outside, the commotion around the wounded Ford Kellen continues. Voices rise and fall. Boots hurry across planks. No one notices the brief sounds of struggle coming from the cobbler's shop. No one sees the color drain from Slate's face as the questioning begins. Each answer is measured. Each hesitation marked by the slow, deliberate testing of a curved leather needle. 20 minutes later, Ash has what he needs. Slate lies bound and gagged in the back room, secured with the same careful precision Ash applies to all his work. The hotel owner broke quickly, revealing not only the plan for tomorrow's robbery, but the full scope of the Iron Wash outfit's operation. Routes, contacts, and their ties to a wider network spread across the territory. Ash returns to his workbench and considers his next move. The wounded deputy's arrival changes everything. Vance will believe the payroll escort was taken cleanly. He'll assume the road to the bank is open. What he won't know is that his inside man is finished, and his plans now sit in the hands of the one man capable of stopping them. With steady purpose, Ash begins preparing. Both kinds of tools are laid out with practiced care, every piece placed exactly where it belongs. Each motion calm, exact, intentional. To anyone glancing through the shop window, He's just a cobbler setting up for the next day. They don't see him testing the balance of knives that never touched leather, or checking the action of guns that haven't fired in 15 years. They don't notice how he rearranges the shop to create clean lines of fire, or how certain tools are positioned for instant reach. Ash understands preparation, whether shaping boots or facing killers. Tomorrow, when Vance and his men make their move, they'll learn that some skills never fade. They only change form. The sun sinks toward evening, painting Dry Hollow in amber and shadow. In his shop, Ash makes his final adjustments. Tomorrow will drag violence back into a life he set aside 15 years ago. But this time, it will happen on his terms. On ground, he knows, guided by patience sharpened through years of peace. Because the most dangerous predator isn't the one that charges. It's the one that waits. As dusk deepens, Ash begins the first phase of his plan. He starts with Slate's confession, carefully copying every detail into his journal. Names, dates, locations. A complete map of the Iron Wash outfit's operation and its wider criminal ties. This isn't just about stopping tomorrow's robbery. It's evidence capable of dismantling outlaw networks across 3 territories. Boots strike the boardwalk outside. The shop door opens and Clay Harker steps in, his young face drawn tight with strain. Thomas, Ash, he corrects himself. Ford Kellen didn't make it. He died about an hour ago. Ash sets his pen down with care. Did he say anything else? Only that they knew. Somehow the gang knew exactly where to set the ambush. Harker runs a hand through his hair. I've got men watching the bank. Payroll arrives tomorrow. How many deputies you got left? 4, Ash answers. 2 on the bank, 2 on patrol. Harker's eyes drift around the shop, lingering on the neatly arranged tools. I sent wires everywhere, but even if help comes, it won't arrive in time. Ash finishes. He stands and reaches for a shelf of finished work. Sheriff, I need you to do something for me. I can't explain why. Not yet. Harker watches as Ash selects the gun belt he repaired that morning. What do you need? At midnight, pull your men back from the bank, all of them. Make it obvious. I want the gang to see it. That's insane, Harker protests. The payroll will be safer than you think, Ash says, handing him the belt. Sometimes the best way to spring a trap is to make it look like there isn't one. Harker studies the leather, then looks up with a new understanding. You know something about the gang. About tomorrow. Yes. Are you going to tell me? Ash considers his answer. Right now, what you don't know keeps you alive. Just clear the bank at midnight and stay away from Slate's hotel tomorrow, no matter what you hear. Harker starts to argue, then stops. Something in Ash's tone, the calm authority, the precision, makes him rethink. All right, midnight. After he leaves, Ash resumes his work. From a hidden compartment beneath the bench, he removes several small packages wrapped in waxed paper. Each holds a measured charge of black powder, not lethal, but more than enough to cause confusion. He places them at key points around the shop, under loose boards, behind shelves, along planned routes of movement and retreat. Every position chosen with the same care he brings to leather and thread. As full darkness settles over Dry Hollow, the sounds of celebration rise from the saloon. Ash listens and waits. The Iron Wash outfit, convinced they crushed the payroll escort, drink deep to their success. Their laughter drifts through the night, mixed with loud boasts about what tomorrow will bring. They have no idea their inside man is bound and gagged in Ash Ridley's back room. They don't know their ambush points have been exposed. And they certainly don't know that when they make their move, they'll be stepping into a trap 15 years in the making. Inside his shop, Ash works by lamplight. Every motion is deliberate. Every preparation tested twice. He isn't simply getting ready for a fight. He's setting a sequence in motion, one where every reaction has already been anticipated. The guns he cleaned earlier are now loaded with specialized rounds. Some carry reduced charges for close quarters. Others are tuned for very specific tasks. Each weapon is placed exactly where his hand will expect it to be. Near midnight, he hears the sheriff's men pulling back from the bank, loudly, just as planned. From his window, Ash watches members of the Iron Wash outfit observing from the shadows. They'll report to Rook Vance that the way is clear. The bait is set. Ash allows himself the faintest smile as he finishes his adjustments. Tomorrow, the Iron Wash outfit will learn what old hands already understand. Some men don't grow old. They cure like fine leather, becoming more dangerous with time. The lamp burns low as Ash Ridley, once known as Needlehand Ridley, prepares for one final dance with violence. This time, it isn't just about stopping a robbery or saving a town. It's about protecting 15 years of peace, 15 years of watching children grow without fear, 15 years of building something worth defending. If the Iron Wash outfit believes an old cobbler is easy prey, they're about to learn that legends don't disappear. They adapt. A cold wind cuts through Dry Hollow in the hours before dawn, rattling signs and pushing dust along empty streets. In the pale, early light, a lone figure moves with purpose. Nora Pike, Evelyn Pike's 16-year-old daughter, on her way to the bakery where she works. She's taken this route every morning for a year without trouble. Today is different. Two men step out of an alley ahead of her. They're drunk, belligerent, hungry for amusement. Nora freezes, then turns, only to find a third man blocking her retreat. "Well now," one of them grins, showing tobacco-stained teeth. Bit early for a young lady to be wandering alone. Her heart slams as they close in. She opens her mouth to scream, "Crack!" The sharp sound of wood striking stone slices through the morning air like a walking stick hitting pavement. "Miss Pike?" A calm voice calls from the shadows. "I believe you dropped this yesterday." Ash Ridley steps into view, moving with the easy pace of an old man on his morning rounds. In his hands is a simple wooden box, the kind used to return repaired shoes. The men tense, then relax. Just a cobbler. "Move along, old-timer," the one with stained teeth growls. "This ain't your business." Ash keeps walking. "Actually, it is. I promised Evelyn Pike I'd keep an eye on her daughter. Professional courtesy. She's one of my best customers." He reaches Nora's side, positioning himself between her and the men with such quiet precision, they don't immediately realize he's forced them closer together. "Last warning," the lead man snaps, pulling a knife. The change in Ash happens in less than a heartbeat. No dramatic shift, just a sudden tension in the air. "That's a Mexican trimming knife," Ash observes mildly, nodding toward the blade. "Good steel, poor balance, made for detail work, not fighting." His eyes, once soft with age, now hold a sharp glint, like sunlight on frozen water. "You're holding it wrong." The man hesitates. "What?" "If you're going to threaten someone," Ash continues in the same tone he uses to discuss leather grades, "you should understand the tool. That blade was designed for careful, precise work. Like this." The shoebox blurs in his hands. In the same instant, the knife is spinning through the air, and Ash catches it by the handle, reverse grip, perfectly set for close work. "See?" he says quietly. "Balance matters." The men stare, struggling to understand what they've just seen. The effortless skill, the implied violence, the way Ash seems larger than he should be. Ancient instincts scream at them to back away. "Miss Pike," Ash says without looking at her, "the baker's waiting." Nora doesn't hesitate. She slips past the men, who don't try to stop her. Their eyes never leave Ash. He studies the knife with professional interest. "Spanish steel," he notes. "Probably stolen from someone who knew how to use it. Shame." He flips it and offers it back, handle first. "Find a different line of work. This one requires skills you don't have." The man snatches the knife, hands shaking. "You've made a mistake, old man. When Vance hears about this, tell him whatever you like," Ash interrupts. "But remember, I work with leather every day. I know how easily it scars, ruins, becomes useless." His smile never reaches his eyes. Just like skin. They retreat, trying to save face. Only when they're nearly gone does one find his voice. "This ain't over." "No," Ash agrees softly. "It isn't." He watches them disappear, then turns back toward his shop. His movements once again belong to an elderly craftsman, but a careful observer might notice other things. How he keeps to the shadows, how his steps make no sound. Despite his apparent age, Ash's awareness never dulls. His eyes keep sweeping the street, measuring angles, tracking movement. When he steps inside, he finds Evelyn Pike waiting. Her face is pale, but her voice is steady. "Nora told me what happened," she says. "Those men won't trouble her again," Ash replies, moving toward his bench. "The way you moved," Evelyn says slowly. "I've never seen anything like it." She hesitates, studying him with new understanding. Except once, years ago. When I was a girl in San Francisco, there was a lawman, famous for how fast he could draw. They called him, "It was a long time ago." Ash interrupts gently. "Another life." Evelyn nods. "Will there be trouble with the gang?" "Some things can't be avoided," Ash says, laying out his tools for the day, each set down with careful purpose. "But trouble finds its own level, like water." She watches him work, noticing how hands rumored to be stiff with age move with quiet fluidity when he thinks no one's watching. "The mining payroll arrives today," she says at last. "People say the Iron Wash outfit plans to take it." "People say a lot," Ash answers. "They also say—" She pauses. "They say you're more than a cobbler, that you have skills this town may need." Ash looks up, meeting her eyes. "What do you think, Mrs. Pike?" She straightens. "I think my daughter walked past 3 dangerous men this morning because you were there. I think this town stayed peaceful for 15 years because you chose to settle here. And I think it may be time for more than mending shoes." A faint smile touches Ash's lips. "Perhaps you're right." He returns to his work, though something in his movements sharpens. More deliberate now, more focused. "You might keep Nora home today," he adds. "Best if your family stays inside until tomorrow." At the door, Evelyn pauses. "Thank you. For everything." After she leaves, Ash continues preparing. The encounter that morning wasn't chance. The men were testing him. Rook Vance would have ordered it. Suspicious after yesterday. They'd learned something, but not enough. Ash checks the hidden compartments around the shop, each holding tools meant for far more than leather. The gang thought they were probing his defenses. Instead, they'd expose their own. The morning sun climbs, washing dry hollow in equal parts promise and threat. Ash works steadily, every stitch exact, every cut intentional. To passers-by, he's just a craftsman at his trade. They don't see anatomy lessons in each slice of leather or combat angles in every measured strike. While his hands work thread and hide, his mind choreographs what comes next. Because mastery is transferable. Patience learned at the bench becomes patience at the trap. Precision with a needle becomes precision in a fight. The doorbell chimes as the first regulars arrive. Ash greets them with quiet courtesy, already steps ahead, planning a reckoning that will remind the territory why his name was once spoken in whispers. By mid-morning, word spreads through Dry Hollow like dry grass catching flame. Folks begin noticing things they'd ignored for 15 years, how Ash always keeps doors and windows in view, how his casual questions map movement, how his tools are handled with exacting economy. Hattie Boone, the telegraph operator's widow, brings in boots that barely need repair. As Ash examines them, she leans in. "Riders from the north," she whispers. 4. Well armed. Seen from the office. Ash gives the smallest nod. "Thank you, Mrs. Boone. Best take the children to your sister's, the visit you mentioned." "We'll leave within the hour." She hesitates. "What you did for Nora this morning, people are talking. They're saying—" "People say many things." Ash cuts in gently. "Best not to listen too close." "They're saying you're him," she presses. "Needlehand Ridley, the man who broke the Carson gang alone, fastest gun in 3 territories." Ash sets the boots aside with care. Those stories belong to another time. Best left there. "Maybe," she says, studying him. "Or maybe some stories need remembering, especially now." After she leaves, Ash moves to the window. He spots the new riders easily, trying too hard to look casual, gear too new, gun belts too slick. More of Vance's men, brought in for tomorrow. Other details catch his eye. Mr. Peterson at the general store, quietly turning folks away. Subtle signals passing between neighbors, families drifting toward the edge of town. Dry Hollow is preparing its own way. Next, through the door, comes Judge Thaddeus Crowley, supposedly to discuss repairs to the courtroom bench. He's served here 20 years. His eyes carry weight as he runs a hand along the workbench. "Interesting thing about leather," the judge says. "Treated right, it never loses its nature. You can shape it, work it, make it seem like something else. But under strain, it remembers what it is." Ash keeps working, a slight curve touching his lips as he answers. Metaphorically or otherwise. Thaddeus Crowley's voice drops, thoughtful. "I remember the day you rode into town 15 years ago. I recognized you right away. Never said a word. Figured a man had his reasons for wanting a quieter life. And now," he continues, straightening his vest, "now I wonder if that quiet was simply another kind of service. Watching, waiting, guarding in a different fashion." He pauses. "The telegram about Ford Kellen's death went out an hour ago. By tomorrow, every lawman in the territory will know the Iron Wash outfit murdered a federal officer." Ash nods once. "That changes things." "Indeed. It turns a bank job into a federal matter. Whatever happens here tomorrow will carry official weight, methods included. The meaning is plain: cover, authority, legitimacy." "I appreciate the consideration, Your Honor," Ash says softly. Crowley reaches the door, then stops. "I was in Cedar Ridge that day, 15 years ago, when you faced the Carson brothers. 3 men drew on you, before anyone could blink." He shakes his head, memory sharpening his eyes. The stories don't do it justice. Stories rarely do. "Still," Crowley says, "they have their place. Justice wears many faces." His gaze settles on the workbench, the tools aligned with exacting care. A craftsman knows different jobs require different tools. Justice is no different. After the judge leaves, Ash returns to his bench. His movements change, subtle, purposeful. Every stitch and cut now serves two ends: maintaining the mask and readying what comes next. The town's expectations settle on his shoulders like a familiar coat, one he'd hung up long ago, never truly forgotten. Horses pass outside. More riders arrive, not bothering to hide who they are. The Iron Wash outfit is consolidating, gearing up for tomorrow. They don't realize they're gathering for their own reckoning. Needlehand Ridley didn't step away from violence out of fear or fatigue. He stepped away because he was tired of killing, tired of being only a weapon. He chose craft to learn patience and precision, to build instead of destroy. But watching Rook Vance's men swagger through Dry Hollow, threatening his people, Ash understands something else. Sometimes the greatest act of creation is restoring order. 15 years of peace haven't dulled him. They've honed him. The afternoon sun hangs heavy when the first shot cracks from the direction of the livery stable. Shouts follow. Glass breaks. Ash pauses mid-stitch, counting seconds, mapping sound. 3 more shots. Running feet on wooden walks. A woman's scream, cut short. The shop bell clatters as Clay Harker staggers in, blood streaming from a gash above his eye. They've gone mad. The sheriff gasps. Started shooting, no warning. Ash is already moving, guiding him to a chair and pulling a kit from beneath the bench. How many? 2 at the stable. Harker winces as Ash cleans the wound. They accused Silas Calderon's boy of spying, shot him dead in the street when I tried to stop it. He grips Ash's arm. They've taken the bank, hostages inside. Ash's hands stay steady as he lays clean, precise stitches. The kit, like everything here, serves more than one purpose. How many hostages? 6, maybe 7, including Ruth Calderon, Silas's widow. She ran toward her boy when they grabbed her. Harker searches Ash's face. You know what this means. They're not waiting. No, Ash says, tying off the last stitch. This isn't about payroll anymore. He moves to the window, careful to stay unseen. It's about sending a message. Outside, the gang has taken positions. 2 on the hotel roof, 3 covering the bank doors, others moving between buildings. Clean, practiced work, not their first takeover. Vance is changing the game, Ash murmurs, making it personal because of what happened to Nora Pike this morning. Because they figured out who you are? Harker asks. Both. Neither. Ash keeps assessing. They're scared. Fear makes men do foolish things, like killing a child to prove they aren't afraid. A voice booms across the street, echoing off boards and brick. Rook Vance stands before the bank, nickel guns gleaming. Ash Ridley, he calls. I know you can hear me. We talked about respect. Ash doesn't answer. He keeps preparing. Vance's tone sharpens. No answer. Maybe this will help. Ruth Calderon stepped forward. Her sob carries through the afternoon air. See, I've been doing some thinking. Rook Vance goes on, his voice carrying down the street. About reputations, about legends, about how a man like Needlehand Ridley could vanish for 15 years, hiding in plain sight, letting folks believe he was nothing more than a boot mender. The street goes unnaturally quiet. Even the wind seems to pause. Oh, we know who you are now. Mercer's slate may have gone missing, but he left behind some mighty interesting reading. Stories about a lawman who could draw faster than thought. The one who brought in the Carson gang all by himself. Inside the shop, Ash Ridley's hands move with calm precision as he checks his weapons, each motion practiced, deliberate. "So, here's how it ends," Vance announces. "You've got 1 hour to surrender. Walk out here unarmed. Face justice for all the men you put in the ground back then. Do that. And these good people in the bank live." A single gunshot cracks the air. Ruth Calderon screams again, this time in pain. "That was just her arm," Vance calls. "Next one won't be so forgiving. Their blood's on your hands, legend. Same as the rest." Clay Harker starts to rise, but Ash stills him with a light touch. "They'll kill you the second you step outside," the sheriff whispers. "We can't let them," Ash replies, his voice edged with steel. "And we won't." He crosses to the back of the shop where the old trunk sits, but instead of opening it, he shoves it aside. Beneath lies a trap door, its hinges oiled to silence, the wood worn smooth by years of care. "The old tunnels," Harker breathes. "From the Silver days. Folks said they collapsed." "Some did," Ash says, lifting the door to reveal a clean, reinforced passage. "Others were sealed by people who understood the value of options." He gathers the small wrapped charges he prepared the night before. "These tunnels run under the whole town," he continues, "including the bank." Understanding dawns in Harker's eyes. "You've been maintaining them all this time. Planning for possibilities," Ash answers, checking his pocket watch. 56 minutes left, more than enough. "For what?" "To remind the Iron Wash outfit why stories used to follow my name," Ash says coldly. "Not because I was fast, but because I always thought 3 moves ahead." He outlines his plan with the precision of a master craftsman. Access points behind the bank, beneath the hotel, under the street itself. 15 years of quiet work, disguised as cobbling, turned into a web of unseen paths. "Get word to your deputies," Ash orders. "When the shooting starts, focus on evacuation. Clear the streets. Keep people away from windows." "But Vance said he's going to kill hostages no matter what," Ash cuts in. "Men like him always do. The only question is how many." He checks his guns one last time. He's made 3 mistakes. What are they? First, he thinks he's facing a legend who relies on speed. He's not ready for someone who spent 15 years learning patience. Ash steps onto the ladder. Second, he gathered all his men in one place, made my work easier. And the third? Ash's eyes harden as he descends. He threatened my town. The afternoon sun continues its slow arc as Ash Ridley vanishes beneath Dry Hollow. Above ground, Rook Vance and his men hold their siege, convinced they've cornered an old legend. They don't understand that some legends work best unseen. Methodical, exact, like a craftsman at his bench. In 48 minutes, the Iron Wash outfit will learn why every old tale about Needlehand Ridley ends the same way. With justice, measured, deliberate, and precise. Below the streets, Ash moves through the tunnels with steady confidence. Timber supports are solid. Brass markers glint every 20 paces, navigation signs disguised as forgotten mining tags. Clay Harker follows, less sure in the dark. "How long have you been preparing for this?" "Since the day I arrived," Ash replies softly, checking an intersection. "Found the old surveys in town records. Folks thought these tunnels were useless after the silver ran out. Never saw their real worth." "As escape routes," Harker murmurs. "As choices," Ash says, ducking under a beam. "Fights aren't won in the moment. They're won in preparation." They reach a vertical shaft with iron rungs. Ash snuffs the lantern and begins to climb. This leads to the bank's old storage cellar, sealed during renovations. Right under the vault, Harker realizes. Under the hostages. Exactly, Ash says, a grim satisfaction in his voice. Vance thinks he controls the high ground. And beneath Dry Hollow, the trap is already set. They never once thought about what lay beneath their boots. Ash Ridley emerges into a dust-choked cellar, its existence hidden behind warped packing crates and years of deliberate neglect. Above them, the sounds are unmistakable. Boots scraping floorboards, muffled orders, the sharp hitch of breath from terrified hostages, and the occasional sob echoing through the planks. Ash reaches into his coat and produces several small wrapped bundles, the same charges he prepared hours earlier. Black powder, he explains quietly when Clay Harker gives him a questioning look. Not enough to maim. Placed right, they create confusion, movement, opportunity. He sets each charge with the same careful exactness he once reserved for leather and thread. Like any craft, Ash murmurs. You don't force it. You understand how the parts work together. Smoke disrupts vision. The tunnels give us motion. Their positions become liabilities. He checks his pocket watch. 32 minutes until Rook Vance's deadline. I need you to pass instructions to your deputies, Ash says. Each man has a role. Timing matters. Clay nods, committing every word to memory. This isn't a rescue, it's choreography. Each action feeds the next, all of it built toward a single, controlled outcome. As Clay turns to leave, Ash adds one last instruction. When the first blast goes, start evacuating the west side, quietly. The gang will be fixated on the bank. They won't notice people slipping away. And the hostages. They'll be clear before the second charge fires. Ash's certainty is absolute. Vance thinks he's dealing with a gunman. He isn't. He's facing a craftsman. Alone in the cellar, Ash continues his work. Every charge is set with deliberate care. Each placement part of a sequence that will unfold as cleanly as a well-cut soul shaped on his bench. Through the floorboards, Vance's voice grows sharper, louder, fraying at the edges. 20 minutes, old man, Vance roars. Then Ruth Calderon loses fingers. Maybe we'll stitch her up after, see if you're still quick with that needle. Ash allows himself a thin smile as he secures the final charge. Vance's taunts betray him, fear bleeding through bluster, control slipping. He expected a showdown in the street, a contest of speed. Instead, he's fighting something he can't see, can't predict, can't understand. In the cellar's shadows, Ash checks his guns one last time. The motions are smooth, familiar, but they're not his primary tools tonight. Like any master craftsman, he knows the best instrument isn't always the loudest one. Outside, the afternoon sun sinks lower, shadows crawling across Dry Hollow. Ash has measured this moment for 15 years. In 15 minutes, those shadows will reach the bank's front window. When they do, the first charge will fire, timed as precisely as the final stitch on a finished boot. The Iron Wash outfit has made the oldest mistake there is. They mistook patience for weakness, precision for hesitation. They are about to learn otherwise. Ash checks his watch again. 10 minutes. Above him, Vance's threats grow manic, his voice cracking under the strain of holding together a plan already unraveling. Last chance, legend. Show yourself now, or their blood's on your hands. In the cellar's darkness, Ash allows himself one final moment of reflection. 15 years of quiet work. 15 years of protection through misdirection and restraint. His cover is gone now, but it no longer matters. The skills that once made him feared haven't faded. They've been sharpened, refined by discipline, patience, and craft into something far more lethal. The Iron Wash outfit came looking for Needlehand Ridley, the fastest gun in the West. What they're about to face is worse. A man who understands that mastery isn't speed or strength, but knowing exactly how every piece fits together. 8 minutes. The first charge detonates the instant the bank's shadow touches the hitching post across the street. The blast is controlled but thunderous. The floor jumps. Smoke erupts through cracks and seams, flooding the bank in thick, blinding clouds. Panic erupts exactly as Ash predicted. Shots ring out wildly, orders clash, men fire at shadows that aren't there. Through it all, Ash moves unseen, sliding through a forgotten panel behind the teller's cage, sealed for decades. "What the hell was that?" Vance shouts, hysteria creeping into his voice. "Get someone down there." The second blast cuts him off, detonating near the rear entrance. More smoke, more chaos. No one notices the floor panel opening beside the hostages. No one sees Ruth Calderon and the others guided silently into the tunnel below. "Boss," one of Vance's men stumbles through the haze. "Posts 3 and 4 ain't answering. Wilson and Parker are gone." Vance spins, trying to pierce the smoke. How can they be? The third charge fires. But this one is different. Instead of smoke, it releases a fine, stinging powder. Leather treatment compound atomized into the air. Eyes burn, throats seize. Men drop to their knees coughing. "Find him!" Vance screams between gasps. "He's here. He has to be." A voice answers from everywhere and nowhere. "You keep talking about legends," Ash says calmly, moving through the haze. "About reputation. About names." A shape flickers. A man goes down, disarmed, before he can fire. But you never ask the important question. "Show yourself." Vance fires blindly into the smoke. "The question isn't who I was," Ash continues, appearing and vanishing again. "It's why a man would spend 15 years practicing in silence. Not for show, not for fear." Another gang member collapses, weapon skidding across the floor. But for precision. 2 more fall, disarmed and bleeding, never seeing what hit them. Men are taken down so swiftly and quietly that their companions barely register it through the smoke. Rook Vance spins in place, nickel-plated revolvers flashing as he tries to track the unseen voice. "Because a real craftsman?" Ash Ridley continues evenly, his words punctuated by the muted thuds of bodies hitting the floor. "Knows mastery isn't about being the fastest or the loudest. It's about doing the job right, about understanding your materials, about patience." The haze thins, revealing the result of his work. 6 members of the Iron Wash outfit lie groaning on the bank floor. Their weapons are disabled with expert care. Their limbs are bound with leather straps cut to exact lengths. Every man is restrained with surgical precision, no wasted motion, no excess force. Vance finds himself alone at the center of the room. The hostages are gone, slipped away through routes he never knew existed. Through the clearing smoke, a figure approaches with measured steps. Ash Ridley advances calmly. His guns remain holstered. He never drew them. Instead, his hands hold the tools of his trade. Leather lengths, a cobbler's hammer, implements that seem harmless until you understand what practiced hands can do. "You want to know why they called me Needlehand Ridley?" Ash asks, conversationally, as he closes the distance. It wasn't about gun speed. It was about efficiency. Knowing exactly where to place each stitch, each strike, each movement to get the result you need. Vance raises his revolvers, but his hands tremble. "Stay back. I'll kill you where you stand." "No," Ash replies with absolute certainty. "You won't." Vance squeezes the triggers. Nothing happens. No report. Not even a click. Horror floods his face as he realizes the truth. His guns have been subtly sabotaged, their firing mechanisms disabled during the moments when the smoke was thickest. A craftsman understands his tools, Ash explains, still advancing. Guns are tools, Mr. Vance. Same as hammers or awls or leather knives. The secret isn't having fancy ones. It's knowing how they work and how they fail. Vance hurls the useless revolvers aside and draws a knife. I don't need fancy tools to kill you, old man. That's where you're wrong. Ash moves. The knife spins away. Vance drops to his knees, his arm locked in a grip that feels like iron cables. You need understanding, Ash says calmly. Patience. Precision. He increases the pressure slightly. Vance gasps. Right now I'm applying force to 3 specific nerve points. I can cause unconsciousness, unbearable pain, or permanent damage. All with the same hold, adjusted just a little. Like leather. It's about knowing where and how much. Please, Vance whimpers, bravado gone. I surrender. I'll face trial. I'll do time. Anything. Trial? Ash echoes with grim amusement. You misunderstand. I'm not arresting you. His grip shifts. Vance screams. I'm teaching you craftsmanship. Lesson 1. Ash continues evenly as the pain peaks. Precision matters. I've just disabled your right arm for 6 weeks. Long enough for justice to do its work. No permanent damage. Another minute adjustment. Another cry. Lesson 2. Proper preparation prevents poor performance. While you were threatening townsfolk and killing innocents, I dismantled your entire operation. Your men are captured or scattered. Your weapons are useless. And evidence of every crime you committed is already in federal hands. Clay Harker enters the bank with his deputies, moving with practiced efficiency. They secure the remaining gang members, each action unfolding exactly as Ash planned. And Lesson 3, Ash concludes as the lawmen take Vance into custody. The best craftsmen never brag. They let the work speak. As Vance is led away in chains, Ash methodically checks his tools, cleaning and returning each one to its proper place with the same care he shows in his shop. The bank bears quiet witness to his precision. Minimal damage, no needless destruction. Even the leather restraints binding the gang are cut to exact size, edges finished clean. Outside, the town slowly emerges. Word spreads that the threat is over. People gather in the street, watching as the Iron Wash outfit is loaded into prison wagons. Awe mixes with understanding as they see Ash Ridley walk back toward his shop. Movements steady and unhurried. Now they understand what stood watch over them all these years. Not just a legend in hiding, but a craftsman who applied his skill to justice with patience and exactness. The sun dips toward the horizon, painting Dry Hollow in colors of vindication. Inside his shop, Ash returns to the boot he'd been mending when it all began. His stitches are flawless. To anyone passing by, he's just a cobbler finishing a long day's work. They don't need to know that each stitch also marks the count of breaths until every criminal is secured. They don't need to understand that every tool movement is also a calculation of angles and force. Because Ash Ridley learned long ago that the greatest victories aren't won with speed or strength, but with patience, precision, and the quiet confidence of a master who knows his craft. As evening settles, Bram Alder arrives with a contingent of territorial riders summoned by Clay Harker's wire. They find the town already returning to order, Ash overseeing the careful transfer of prisoners. 15 years, Alder says, watching Ash check the restraints on Vance's wrists. Not once did you let on, not even to me. Ash finishes his inspection before answering. Some things are better left unsaid, Marshal. You know that. Alder nods slowly. Like why the greatest manhunter in the territory vanished. Or why certain dangerous men always avoided this town without knowing why. Reputation is a curious thing, Ash replies, adjusting a strap with practiced care. Sometimes the dangers you don't see are the ones that work best. The marshal studies the prisoners again, each bound with the same exacting precision. And at last, he understands. Been restrained to prevent escape while avoiding unnecessary discomfort. Your work hasn't gotten sloppy, I'll give you that. A craftsman never stops practicing, Ash Ridley replies, stepping back once he's satisfied with his inspection. Even when the materials change. Inside the bank, territorial riders move carefully through the aftermath, documenting every detail. They linger over the intricate web of charges and mechanisms Ash arranged throughout the building. Devices designed to cause maximum disruption with minimal damage. It's like a clock, one agent murmurs, studying the timing marks. Every piece synchronized, every reaction anticipated. I've never seen anything like it. That's because you're thinking like a lawman, Bram Alder answers. Try thinking like a craftsman, someone who knows every problem has a technique, the right pressure points, the right order of steps. Ruth Calderon approaches Ash as the final prison wagon is secured. Her arm is bandaged where Rook Vance shot her, but her gaze is steady. They're saying you never fired a shot, she says quietly, that you stopped them with tools, ordinary ones. There's nothing ordinary about tools, Mrs. Calderon, Ash replies gently. It's how they're used. He reaches into his vest and removes a small leather pouch. This is for Eli Pike. Your boy always wanted to learn the trade. Her hands tremble as she opens it. Inside is a perfectly maintained set of leatherworking tools, the same ones Eli used to admire when he lingered in Ash's shop. I don't understand, she whispers. How did you know? How did you plan for all this? It wasn't planning exactly, Ash says, watching as Vance's wagon begins its long journey to the territorial prison. It's about reading patterns, like leather grain. Every situation has natural lines of force. Once you see them, the rest is just technique. That evening, the hollow assembly gathers in Thaddeus Crowley's chambers. They finally understand that their quiet cobbler didn't simply save the town. He's been guarding it all along. The tunnel system, the mayor says, spreading old mining maps across the table. You've kept it intact all these years, not just for escape, but for security. Ash nods. Every leather shop needs proper ventilation. The old air shafts made fine observation posts. And your shop's location, Clay Harker adds, between the saloon and the undertaker. Best place in town to watch both trouble and consequences. Location matters in any trade, Ash answers mildly. Same as tool placement or stitch spacing. Judge Crowley leans forward. So what happens now? Your cover's gone. Every outlaw in the territory will know Needlehand Ridley isn't just a story anymore. Good, Ash says quietly. Let them know. Some legends don't fade, they adapt. He looks out the window at the town he's protected for 15 years. A craftsman doesn't stop working just because people understand his methods. If anything, it demands greater precision. You're staying? The mayor asks. Yes, Ash replies simply. Some jobs require more than one skill. Later that night, Ash returns to his workbench, the boot he'd been repairing when everything began. Waits patiently beneath the lamplight. Each stitch he places carries the same precision he used to dismantle the iron wash outfit. The same care, the same understanding of pressure and balance. That was what the gang never understood. They thought they were facing a legend who relied on speed and reputation. Instead, they faced a craftsman, someone who learned that patience, precision, and respect for materials apply as much to justice as to leather. The final stitch settles into place just before midnight. Ash lifts the boot, studying it in the glow. Every seam is flawless, every repair invisible. Just like the takedown of the iron wash outfit, no wasted motion, no needless force. Only skill applied exactly where it belonged. Dawn breaks over dry hollow to unfamiliar sounds. Hammers repairing the bank's facade, horses bringing supplies, telegraph keys clattering as news spreads across the territory. Beneath it all runs a quiet sense of change, as if the town itself is adjusting. Inside his shop, Ash Ridley works with his usual calm focus. This time, a steady stream of visitors passes through. Some with repairs, others simply to watch. They study his tools with new understanding. The knife that can slice hide cleanly, the awl that can pierce oak-tanned leather, or disable a man's arm with a single precise motion. "Never thought I'd see work like that again," a gravelly voice says from the doorway. Orrin Black, retired cavalry scout, leans on his cane, watching Ash's hands with knowing eyes. "I saw something like this once down Mexico way," Orrin Black says, his voice rough with age. "A man dismantled a whole band of outlaws using nothing but a farrier's kit." Ash Ridley keeps working, neither agreeing nor denying. His hands never slow. "Funny thing was," Orrin goes on, eyes sharp despite the years, "he did it quiet. No guns, no show, just precision. Folks called him El Artesano, the craftsman. Always thought that was an interesting story." "It is," Ash answers mildly, guiding the awl through leather without looking up. Orrin taps his cane, especially since not long after that, Needlehand Ridley showed up in the territories. Same methods, different tools. Always wondered how a lawman got so good up close. Before Ash can reply, the bell over the door chimes again. Hattie Boone enters, followed by several women from the hollow assembly, their faces set with resolve. "Mr. Ridley," Hattie says, "we need to talk about security for the mining payroll routes. Yesterday proved our system isn't enough. I'm just a cobbler." Ash begins gently. "No," she interrupts, laying a document on his bench. "You're a craftsman, and this town needs your craft, all of it. The council has voted. We're formally retaining your services, security consultation, proper authority, proper pay." Ash studies the paper without touching it. "That changes things." "Things already changed yesterday," Hattie replies. "The question is whether you'll help us change them the right way." Before he can answer, shouting erupts outside. Hooves thunder down the street. A rider barrels in at full gallop, dust trailing behind him. Ash recognizes one of Bram Alder's men and instantly knows something is wrong. The rider barely reins in. "Ash! Prison wagons! Ambush!" Ash is already moving. "When?" 20 minutes ago. Broken Ridge Crossing. 12 men hit the wagons. Rook Vance's cousin leading them. They're riding hard, straight here. Fear ripples through the shop. Someone whispers, "They're coming for revenge." Ash's calm voice cuts through the panic. "Mrs. Boone, implement the evacuation plan we discussed. Orrin, Church Tower. Use the cavalry signals we worked out." The old scout nods once and turns without a word. Ash finishes the final stitch on the boot he's been repairing, tightens it, and sets his tools back in their exact places. Only then does he reach for a different cabinet, one no one ever paid much attention to. "No," he says quietly, checking unfamiliar implements with practiced ease. They're not coming for revenge. They're coming because they don't understand what happened yesterday. He opens the cabinet. Inside are specialized tools, each maintained as carefully as his cobbler's kit, but meant for something else entirely. They think yesterday was about speed, about fighting. Ash continues. It wasn't. He tests the edge of a blade that looks like a leather knife, but clearly isn't. Yesterday was a demonstration of preparation, of technique, of understanding your materials. Hattie watches, comprehension dawning. You knew they'd try this. A craftsman anticipates problems, Ash replies, plans for them. He turns to the gathered townspeople. Harrison was a symptom. His outfit is larger, family, allies, dependencies. Like rot in leather, you don't just treat the surface, you fix the source. And his cousin? Someone asks from the doorway. Ash's smile is slight, certain. He's the tool that finishes the job. He checks his pocket watch. 12 men, riding hard, angry, not thinking clearly, straight into a workshop. He looks out over Dry Hollow. That's what this town became overnight. Every street, every building, every shadow. The sun climbs higher as Ash completes his preparations. This won't be like the bank, quiet and contained. Some lessons need to be public. You're going to make an example of them, Hattie says softly. Ash studies the sun's position, measuring angles like stitch spacing. No, I'm going to make a masterpiece. Something the whole territory understands. He surveys the street one last time. Sightlines cleared, exits sealed, pressure points set. Everything is ready. The workbench is the town itself. Because Ash Ridley understands something Rook Vance's cousin and the men riding with him do not. True craftsmanship is never about brute strength or flashy tools. It's about turning the entire world around you into a workbench, about recognizing the hidden use in every object, every shadow, every angle, and shaping events with intention until the outcome becomes inevitable. From the eastern road, a plume of dust lifts into the morning air. Riders. Fast. Just as predicted. Ash makes one last, almost imperceptible adjustment. His movements as exact as if he were finishing the welt on a custom boot. Time, he murmurs, to remind them why a craftsman's reputation isn't built on one job, but on steady, reliable precision. Dry Hollow seems to hold its breath as the riders close in, unaware they are charging straight into the most elaborate lesson the territory has ever witnessed. This time, Ash Ridley isn't merely stopping an attack. He's turning it into a demonstration that will echo for generations. You're not using the tunnels. Clay Harker notes, watching Ash place small, ordinary items around the town square. Different task. Ash replies, checking the angle of a water trough to the inch. Different method. Yesterday was surgical. Today needs to be instructive. The sheriff studies the square more closely. Nothing looks dangerous at first glance, yet everything feels intentional. A hitching post sits slightly off true. Feed sacks are stacked in a peculiar pattern. Even the way the morning light stretches across the dirt seems planned, as though Ash calculated the sun's arc long before dawn. Like arranging a display, Hattie Boone says slowly. My pa used to do that at the general store. Made sure folks saw exactly what he wanted them to see. Ash nods. Presentation matters in every craft, whether you're selling goods or teaching lessons. From the church tower comes the agreed signal. Less than 10 minutes. Ash adjusts a barrel near the saloon, then steps back. To anyone else, Dry Hollow looks calm, almost ordinary. To a craftsman's eye, it's flawless preparation. Your deputies know their marks? Ash asks. Exactly as you said, Clay answers. Though I still don't see why they're posted so far back. Because this isn't about gunfire, Ash says, already walking toward his shop. It's about principles, about showing why certain natural laws can't be ignored. He pauses in his doorway and turns to the gathered townsfolk. What you're about to see isn't violence, he says evenly. It's craftsmanship, every reaction accounted for, every consequence prepared. The thunder of hooves grows louder. Ash's voice carries clearly. Vance's cousin is angry. He'll come straight down Main Street, direct, loud, obvious. That's what he thinks power looks like. And you'll show him otherwise? Hattie asks. I'll show him precision. Ash steps just inside his shop but leaves the door open. The riders explode into town. 13 men on foam-lathered horses, weapons drawn, led by a man whose resemblance to Rook Vance is unmistakable. They charge exactly as Ash predicted. What follows looks, to an untrained eye, like a chain of bad luck. A horse brushes the water trough. It shifts, only slightly, but enough to send 3 riders veering. Their new path carries them beneath a poorly balanced stack of lumber that chooses that exact moment to slip. They dodge the falling boards, straight into sunlit clotheslines strung at blinding angles. A barrel tips. Oil spreads in a deliberate pattern. Feed sacks collapse, separating riders from one another with uncanny efficiency. Nothing appears deliberate. Everything is. From his doorway, Ash watches with quiet satisfaction as cause and effect unfold. Every response has been anticipated, just as a master leatherworker knows exactly how hide will stretch under pressure. Separated from his men, Vance's cousin finally senses the truth. He wheels his horse, fury twisting his face as confusion sets in. You, he roars when he spots Ash. This is you. Of course, Ash replies calmly. You're just not seeing the full pattern yet. The man raises his gun, but his horse shies at a sudden flash of reflected light Ash triggers with a subtle motion. He keeps his seat, loses his weapon. When he draws another, the sun slams straight into his eyes, exactly on cue. You see, Ash continues conversationally, craftsmanship isn't about single actions. It's about how everything connects. The horse backs into the hitching post Ash adjusted an hour earlier. The angle is perfect, the pressure precise. The animal isn't harmed, but the rider is unseated, hitting the dirt hard and landing exactly where Ash intended. 13 men, Ash observes, stepping forward at last. 13 pieces. Around the square, every attacker finds himself trapped by circumstance that only appears accidental. Each man contained, each position intentional. Just like cutting pattern pieces. Ash finishes quietly. Everyone exactly where it needs to be. Yesterday I showed your cousin why speed and violence lead nowhere, Ash Ridley says, closing the distance with calm, deliberate steps. Today I'm showing you something deeper. Why true craftsmanship will always outmatch brute force. He stops beside the fallen man, who stares up with fear slowly giving way to understanding. How? The man whispers. How did you do all this? The same way I make a good pair of boots, Ash answers evenly. I study my materials, prepare the work, and execute with precision. He gestures to the square, where Clay Harker and his deputies are already rounding up the shaken raiders. Every element sits exactly where it was meant to. Each mistake feeding the next, each reaction anticipated. Cut clean, placed true, working together toward a single result. The morning sun now stands high, lighting Dry Hollow just as Ash calculated. In that clear light, the pattern reveals itself to those who know how to look. How one accident forced another. How the town itself became a carefully arranged workshop. Take a message back to whatever's left of your outfit. Ash tells the cousin as he's hauled to his feet. Dry Hollow is protected by a craftsman, not a gunman, not a badge, but someone who understands that mastery comes from preparation, precision, and perfect execution. Life begins to move again, but the town is no longer the same. What they witnessed wasn't merely victory. It was proof that Needlehand Ridley's legend was never about speed. It was about control, about knowing every tool, every technique, every variable. As Ash turns back to his shop, he pauses to straighten the hitching post one last time. A craftsman always leaves his work clean, ready for the next task. And in Dry Hollow, there will always be work for a man who knows that the principles of fine craft apply just as surely to justice as they do to leather. Evening settles in, quieter than usual. Folks retreat indoors, murmuring about what the day truly meant. Inside Ash's shop, another reckoning unfolds. Bram Alder sits across from the workbench, a bottle of old Mexican brandy between them. Label faded, wax seal long cracked. "I've been saving this," Bram says softly, pouring 2 measures. "For the day I finally understood the truth about El Artesano." Ash stills, a faint smile touching his mouth. "That's a name I haven't heard in a long time." 1858, Bram continues. Mexico City, a master craftsman takes on an American apprentice. Talented not just with leather, but with the principles behind it. 2 years later, the master is murdered by bandits. The apprentice disappears. Then stories start spreading. Stories grow, Ash says mildly, lifting his glass. "These didn't," Bram replies. "They sharpened. Tales of a man who dismantled entire gangs without firing a shot. The locals called him El Artesano. Then he vanished north, and not long after, a new name surfaced, Needlehand Ridley." The lamplight glints in the brandy as Ash swirls it. "You've been busy." 15 years, Bram says quietly. "Ever since you vanished after the Carson affair. What I never understood was why a man at the height of his reputation would disappear, only to resurface as a quiet cobbler." Ash sets his glass down, aligning it perfectly with the bench edge. "Have you ever watched a true master work leather, Marshall? Not just cutting and stitching, but selecting the hide, treating it, understanding how it wants to move?" Bram nods. "My teacher, Eduardo Ramirez, used to say the same. Master the material and you master the outcome. Not with force, but patience." "When the bandits killed him," Ash says, turning to the window, "I wanted revenge. But I remembered his lessons. I didn't charge in firing. I studied. I learned patterns. I took them apart piece by piece. And that became your signature," Bram says, "the lawman who won without gunfire." "It worked," Ash admits. "Too well. I started believing the legend, forgot the deeper lesson." "Until the Carsons," Bram says. Ash nods, resting a hand on the worn bench. "They took hostages. I planned perfectly, too perfectly. I missed the human variable. A girl panicked, ran at the wrong moment. I stopped the gang, but she was hurt." He exhales slowly. "That's when I remembered what Eduardo truly taught me. Craftsmanship isn't about the craftsman. It's about making things better than they were." He lifts a strip of leather as he speaks. "You don't force leather into shape. You help it become what it already can be." Understanding settles over Bram's face. "So, you came here. Dry Hollow needed a cobbler more than another legend." Ash smiles faintly. "Eduardo said the best craftsmen are the ones whose work isn't noticed until it's needed, and you never stopped practicing," Bram observes. A craftsman never does, Ash replies, returning to his tools. Practice, all preparation. Never just for violence, but for whatever challenge might come. Ash Ridley settles back into his chair and lifts his glass. This town shaped me as much as I shaped it, he says quietly. It taught me that true mastery isn't about what you're capable of doing, but knowing when to act. And how. Bram Alders studies him with a new understanding. Now that your secrets are out, he says, things can't go back to the way they were. They don't need to, Ash replies, calm and certain. Dry Hollow has grown past the need for secrets. What it needs now is care. How to protect what we've built, how to help it become the best version of itself. Bram nods slowly. Like working leather. Exactly like working leather. Ash raises his glass to Eduardo Ramirez, who taught me that every craft, when understood properly, is about leaving the world better than you found it. They drink the rare brandy while the lamp burns low, trading stories that tie the past to the present. Outside, the town sleeps. Unaware that its quiet cobbler hasn't just been mending boots all these years, he's been practicing an art older and deeper than leatherwork. Ash understands now what Eduardo tried to teach him long ago. True craftsmanship isn't about objects or reputation. It's about shaping the world, one careful stitch at a time, until something lasting emerges from patient work. The first hint of trouble arrives with the morning stage. Among the passengers stepping down onto Dry Hollow's dusty street is a man who moves with measured caution, his Eastern-cut clothes expensive yet practical, his eyes weighing the town with professional interest. Watching from his shop window, Ash recognizes the look. Men who calculate everything as profit and loss. The stranger's gaze lingers on the bank's fresh repairs, on the places where Ash's accidents dismantled Rook Vance's cousin's attack. James Whitaker, Bram says from the doorway, following Ash's line of sight. Representative of Western Territories Investment Corporation. Word is they've been buying towns all along the proposed rail line. Ash keeps stitching, hands steady. Interesting timing. Bram lowers his voice. Those companies have a habit of snapping up troubled towns cheap, places where violence drives property values down, like towns recently targeted by notorious gangs. Ash's needle moves with perfect precision. Exactly. They move in during panic, buy low, then sell high once the rails arrive. That's not all, Bram adds. Territory headquarters wired me. The Iron Wash outfit was just one piece. Railroad speculation, land fraud, protection rackets, all tied to powerful people. People who don't like having their plans interrupted, Ash says, glancing toward Whitaker, now speaking with members of the Hollow Assembly. So they've sent their own craftsmen. Whitaker's different from Vance, Bram warns. He doesn't use guns. He uses contracts, lawsuits, economic pressure. Towns that resist suffer accidents. Banks fail, supplies vanish. Before Ash can reply, the shop bell chimes. James Whitaker enters with easy confidence, his practiced smile stopping just short of warmth. Mr. Ridley, he says smoothly, your reputation precedes you. Both of them. Ash remains seated at his bench. Need boots repaired, Mr. Whitaker? Actually, I'm here to discuss another kind of craftsmanship. Whitaker opens a leather portfolio. Fine work, Ash notes instantly, and spreads maps and surveys across the bench. Progress, development, turning frontier towns into modern cities. The railroad's coming, Whitaker continues. Within 2 years, Dry Hollow will be a hub. Property values will soar, but development requires stability, security. His smile sharpens. The sort a man of your talents could provide. I'm just a cobbler, Ash says mildly. Whitaker waves it away. What you did to the Iron Wash outfit was masterful. My employers appreciate that level of skill. He names a sum that could buy the town twice over, plus a share of future profits. All you have to do is relocate to Denver. Leave this limited venue. And if I decline? Ash asks. Whitaker's smile doesn't fade. Progress is inevitable, Mr. Ridley. Like leather, development follows natural patterns. Sometimes those patterns require reshaping what already exists. He gestures toward the square. Dry Hollow will change. The only question is whether that change benefits its people or breaks them. Ash studies a strip of leather, running his thumb along the grain. Interesting analogy, he says, but incomplete. A good craftsman knows leather can't be forced into shapes it's not ready for. Rush it and you get something weak, worthless. Philosophy wasn't part of my offer, Whitaker snaps. No, Ash replies evenly, meeting his eyes. Your offer was about control, dressing corruption in better clothes, turning my craft to your purposes instead of this town's needs. Whitaker's smile finally cracks, revealing iron beneath. Don't make this difficult. My employers aren't accustomed to resistance. Ash's voice stays calm. Then they're about to learn something important, just like everyone else who mistook force, money, or pressure for craftsmanship. Nor am I. Ash Ridley's voice carries the same calm authority he uses when explaining his craft. You studied what happened with Rook Vance's gang. You studied my methods. But you missed the one point that matters most. A true craftsman doesn't serve himself or his employers. He serves the craft. He makes things better, not merely different. Ash rises slowly, every movement deliberate, weighted with certainty. Dry Hollow is not for sale, Mr. Whitaker. Not its land, not its people, and certainly not its soul. The corporate man's polished exterior fractures. You're making a serious mistake. My employers have ways of dealing with obstacles, legal pressure, financial leverage, accidents no one can trace. Like the accidents in those other towns? Ash asks quietly. The fires, the vanished supplies, the foreclosures that forced people to sell. Whitaker takes an involuntary step back, something in Ash's tone setting off every instinct he has. I don't know what you're implying. I'm not implying anything, Ash replies. I'm stating a fact. Dry Hollow is under my protection, not just from blunt threats like the Iron Wash outfit, but from subtler dangers. Men in fine suits who think fear and manipulation can reshape a town. He moves around the workbench, steps measured to the inch. You're right about one thing, Mr. Whitaker. I am a craftsman. And a good craftsman understands materials, their strengths, their limits, their natural patterns. That includes the patterns of men who believe they're too clever to be caught. Whitaker tries to recover his composure. Is that a threat, Mr. Ridley? No. It's a professional assessment. Ash's smile is thin and cold. Just like spotting flaws in leather before they show. Your corporation leaves traces, records, repetitions, habits. The sort of patterns territorial writers would find very interesting. Whitaker's face drains of color. You're bluffing. You couldn't possibly. 15 years. Ash cuts in softly. 15 years of watching, waiting, taking notes. Every trader who mentioned missing shipments. Every business that failed under strange circumstances. Every parcel of land sold at the wrong price at the wrong time. A craftsman pays attention. He returns to his bench and lifts his tools with easy familiarity. So here's my counteroffer. Leave Dry Hollow. Tell your employers to build somewhere else. Because if anything happens here, any accident, any financial pressure, any harm to these people, I will use every piece of evidence I've gathered to dismantle your entire operation. The threat hangs in the air, heavy with the weight of 15 years of patient record-keeping. Whitaker looks from Ash to Bram Alder, calculating, reassessing. At last he understands he's not facing a retired lawman. He's facing a craftsman who turned an entire town into a workshop, who prepared for threats loud and quiet alike. My employers won't be pleased. Whitaker manages. They'll be far less pleased. Ash answers evenly. If I'm forced to demonstrate my craft inside their organization. Some things, once taken apart, can't be put back together. Whitaker retreats, his confidence in ruins. Ash knows it isn't the end, only the beginning of a different kind of fight. Some threats can't be stopped with traps or precision strikes. Sometimes a craftsman must reshape the whole landscape, working with materials far more complex than leather or steel. Sometimes he must protect not just lives, but the soul of a community. And as Ash returns to his bench, he's already planning. Because a true craftsman never stops learning, never stops preparing. The telegraph office in Dry Hollow has never been busier. Messages flow in and out like an unseen river, carrying information Ash has been collecting for 15 years. Each wire is another thread in a tapestry woven with patience. Denver confirms it. Hattie Boone reports, bringing another stack of replies. Western Territories Investment Corporation ties into every major land scandal we checked. Tax records, property transfers, accidents, all documented, just like you said. Ash studies the telegrams the way he reads leather grain. And the other matter? Thaddeus Crowley's contacts came through, she says, spreading a map across the bench. 7 more towns marked along the rail route. Same pattern. Patterns are everything, Ash replies, tracing lines between the dots. In leatherwork, you read the grain. You see how stress lines connect. Same principle here. Bram enters with more news. Federal investigators are interested, very interested, especially in those records you kept on supply disruptions and property flips. Ash opens a cabinet no one ever questioned. Inside, shelves of leather-bound journals, meticulously labeled, cross-referenced, precise. Bram lifts one, awe creeping into his expression. You weren't just protecting this town, he says. You were building a case. A craftsman prepares his materials before he begins, Ash answers, selecting a volume and opening it to a marked page. Sometimes that preparation takes years, but when it's done right, every piece fits. Hattie Boone studies the web of evidence with a new kind of clarity. That's why you stayed in one place for so long, why you kept your cover even when it became dangerous. You weren't waiting for trouble, you were mapping it. I was recording the entire pattern, Ash Ridley confirms. One incident means nothing by itself. Step back far enough, though, and you see how everything connects. He gestures to the map, where his careful markings expose a deliberate design of corporate coercion and corruption. The bell over the door rings as Thaddeus Crowley enters, a bundle of legal papers under his arm. The territorial governor is taking this very seriously, Ash, especially the links between Western Territories investment and certain officials. Operations like theirs always need support inside the system, says, scanning the documents with a practiced eye. Like tooling leather, you need proper backing or the work collapses. He looks up. They're already trying to discredit me, painting me as a violent vigilante using an old reputation to interfere with legitimate business. A faint smile touches his lips. Let them. Every attempt to smear me draws more eyes to the evidence. Difficult leather fights back, but you can use that resistance to your advantage. He turns to his bench where an unfinished boot waits, his hands slipping back into their familiar rhythm. Each stitch is exact, deliberate. Western territories thinks power comes from money, contracts, and squeezing people until they break. And they're wrong? Hattie asks. They're incomplete. Ash corrects, needle flashing. True power, like true craftsmanship, isn't about force. It's about understanding how things work together, how communities support one another, how people unite once they recognize a threat. He lifts the boot. Look at these stitches. Each one is small. Alone, they seem insignificant. Together, they hold everything. Thaddeus nods slowly. That's what they never understood about Dry Hollow. The town changed. It grew stronger. Exactly. Ash sets the boot down. The Iron Wash outfit tried violence. Western Territories tries economics. Both failed to grasp that this place isn't just buildings. It's relationships, connections, people standing together. He begins outlining his plan, every step as precise as cuts in a complex pattern. First, we expose the corruption, not just here, but in every town they targeted. Show how the accidents and financial pressure were coordinated. The territorial riders will back that, Bram Alder says. Second, Ash continues, we demonstrate community resistance. Any business they pressure, any supplier they threaten, gets support from neighboring towns. These tactics only work when people feel isolated. Hattie's eyes brighten. Like when you helped Evelyn Pike's laundry stay open, or rerouted supplies to the miller when his shipments vanished. A craftsman supports his community, Ash says simply. Helps it grow resilient. And third, Thaddeus asks. Third, we show them what real craftsmanship looks like. Ash replies, certainty ringing in his voice. Not just stopping their operation, but building something better. Something that serves people instead of exploiting them. He spreads plans across the bench, clearly years in the making. Community-owned enterprises, cooperative networks between towns, safeguards against economic manipulation, every detail measured, designed to strengthen independence. Dry Hollow isn't just defended. It's being shaped, carefully, patiently, by a craftsman who knows that lasting justice, like fine leatherwork, is built stitch by stitch. Finally, let me send my deep thanks to you. We appreciate you more than you think. If this tale stirred something deep inside, we invite you to remain part of this frontier of memories. More true stories of honor, compassion, and destiny are waiting for you here. Subscribe, share, comment, and thank you for riding with us today. Aviso legal. Disclaimer. Our content is designed for artistic and entertainment purposes and may reinterpret historical themes using fictional touches. We apply AI tools thoughtfully, only to support production, while keeping human supervision over editing, emotional tone, and narrative coherence. We always comply with regulatory guidelines for AI-based media and avoid deepfake practices or identity manipulation. All supporting components remain legally sourced. Please ask for authorization before sharing or adapting any segment. Your respect makes it possible for us to continue telling meaningful stories.